Good evening, everyone. The time is 5:30 p.m. It's Monday, October 6th, 2025. I'd like to call this regular council meeting of the Village of Harrison Hot Springs Town Village Council to order. Next item on our agenda is a land acknowledgement. And maybe I'll begin with just by saying on September 30th that myself, along with Councillors Vital and Pacho, took part in national truth and reconciliation events hosted by Stehalis. This included a walk from the Eco Lodge to the Sandpiper Golf Course and speakers and powerful drumming and beautiful dancing by Stehalis. What the speakers shared was moving. The symbolism of the walk was also not lost on me. The work of reconciliation is, I believe, an ongoing process where we can collectively make a better Canada. And with that, I respectfully acknowledge that the Village of Harrison Hot Springs and this meeting tonight takes place on the traditional territory of Stehalis. Public hearing. There isn't one tonight, but I'll put a plug in for the public hearing. That is tomorrow evening at 5 p.m. right here in the Memorial Hall. Introduction of late items. I have one late item to introduce, and I believe our CIO has one as well, and I'll look for the rest to see if there's anything. I'd like to introduce a late item on behalf of staff as new business item 17B, Strategic Priorities Fund. If it gets approved, there's a drafted proposed recommendation, and I'll read it out here, that Council indicated support for cost overruns associated with the application to the Strategic Priorities Fund for up to $2 million for the proposed Brownfield redevelopment project. When that item comes up, we'll look for additional information from our Community Services Manager. I'd like to move that that item be added to 17B, which is time sensitive. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And we've added that to the agenda. The CAO Cook, you have something else?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. You should have, all of Council should have a copy of the letter addressed to Mayor and Council from Mr. Alan Garneau, dated October 1st, 2025. And I would like request that Council add that under correspondence. So that would be 10I.
I'll move that, be added as 10, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, call the vote. All in favor, and that correspondence is added to our agenda as well. Approval of agenda is the next item on our agenda. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda as amended? Moved by Councillor Pacho, seconded by Councillor Schweinbanz. I see your hand there, Councillor. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Now that we've approved the agenda, are there any declarations of conflict of interest tonight? Seeing none, I will move to adoption of council minutes, item 7.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Pacho, seconded by Councillor Vital. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and that carries unanimously. Business arising from the minutes. Is there any business tonight arising from the minutes we've just adopted? Seeing none, I will move to item 9, which is delegations and petitions. We had scheduled Angela McDougall, Executive Director, Battered Women's Support Services, but I understand was there a last minute snafu, and do we have someone participating remotely tonight? Corporate Officer?
Thank you. Yes, you can see on our screen here, Shelby Johnson is standing in for Angela this evening, joining us via Zoom.
Angela, please proceed.
Thank you so much. Are you able to hear me okay on your side?
We can hear you fine. Thank you.
Fabulous. Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, Mayor Tallon, councillors. Thank you so much for welcoming us here today and taking the time to meet with us. My name is Shelby Johnson, and I'm here on behalf of Battered Women's Support Services, where I work as a campaign coordinator. As a quick note, I'll be using the acronym BWSS through the presentation, and our Executive Director, Angela Marie McDougall, does send her regards. Now, to get into it, if we're ready, for over 45 years, BWSS has been on the front line of ending gender-based violence in BC, providing critical services, prevention initiatives, and intervention supports. Last year alone, we responded to more than 52,000 requests for service. While based in Metro Vancouver, we also respond to calls for support and training across the province. We're here today because supporting survivors, ending violence, advancing public safety is a responsibility that we all share. And municipalities play a pivotal role in that work. So too often, intimate partner violence and gender-based violence is framed as a private issue. Society has too often conditioned us to believe that it is something to be dealt with behind closed doors. But in reality, its impacts are deeply public. When women or girls or gender diverse people are attacked or murdered in their homes, when children witness these acts of violence, when entire communities are left in grief and fear, that is a public emergency. We have reached a point now where gender-based violence is a public safety crisis. Truly, we can say that every community is affected. I imagine that every resident of Harrison Hot Springs either has a direct experience with gender-based violence or knows someone who has, whether it is a family member, a friend, a classmate, a coworker, a neighbor, you name it. There aren't that many degrees of separation. While overall homicide rates in Canada have been declining, killings of women and girls, or femicides, have risen by 10% just since 2024. In the Fraser Valley Regional District alone, I did some homework and saw that there were 12 confirmed cases of femicide since 2021. And these numbers only reflect confirmed cases. They do not include missing persons or suspicious deaths. There's also a hidden financial cost to this inaction. On average, we've estimated that municipalities bear $11,000 per resident per year in costs related to gender-based violence. This isn't captured in a single line on a city budget, but it shows up across policing, healthcare, justice, lost productivity, and community well-being. Every municipal department is already absorbing the cost of an underfunded, underprioritized response. But here's the hopeful part. We can change this. By taking coordinated action, we can reduce harm, prevent violence, and create safer, healthier communities. Safety is not only possible, but we truly assert that it's achievable, and it changes everything. The key point we want to drive home today is that municipal governments play a critical role in public safety. Survivors are residents, taxpayers, and cities can't afford to ignore this crisis. Public safety must be designed with survivors in mind. And at our organization, we are encouraging municipalities to lead in 5 key ways, which I will list out. We are hoping that 1, we can declare gender-based violence a public safety priority, treat it with the same urgency as any other crisis, and use communication to challenge stigma. Number 2, establish a gender-based violence task force. Bring together survivors, police, housing, and health leaders to design coordinated responses. Number 3 would be to assign a municipal hall lead, ensure cross-departmental accountability for prevention. Number 4 is to integrate risk assessment. Require that risk assessment tools, such as the SAFER or ODERA, for police and other first responders are equally applied. And number 5, we're asking to track and report costs. Apply the $11,000 analysis to local budget frameworks to reveal the true cost of inaction. And we are not asking you to solve this alone. We are offering our support, our data, our expertise, and a growing provincial network of municipalities who are stepping up. Municipal councils like yours are on the front lines of public safety. You know your community best. In doing my research, I saw that in your 2025 to 2026 strategic plan, you rightly prioritize public safety and healthy, livable communities, aiming to ensure that safety and healthy lifestyles for all of your residents. You also support initiatives like the Moose Tide campaign and the Purple Light Nights campaign, demonstrating commitment to ending violence against women. As municipal leaders, you shape the everyday conditions of safety, which are housing, transit, policing, recreation, and community connection. These are not abstract responsibilities. They are life-saving. I understand that a conversation will be happening tomorrow regarding your official community plan. As one idea, and in considering your goals, we encourage that discussions about safe homes and emergency shelters be included in this dialogue. We understand that the closest transition house from Harrison Hot Springs is in Chilliwack, which is over 30 minutes away by car. This highlights a gap in immediate access to safe housing for survivors locally, and you are not the only community that is experiencing this kind of issue with public safety. Ultimately, I think we can all agree that every resident of Harrison Hot Springs deserves to be safe, at home, in public, and throughout their community. This is a moment for leadership, and not only to honor the lives lost, but to prevent future violence and to end gender-based violence. Personally, I do applaud you for responding to our letter and for your plan to write to your MP, Brad Vi, or Brad V, I'm not sure how his name is pronounced, regarding the public safety issue. With this, Harrison Hot Springs has the opportunity to lead by example, strengthening public safety while supporting survivors with compassion and practical solutions. And with that, I will wrap up and say thank you again for taking this time, Mayor Tallon and councillors, for your commitment. We look forward to working with you and with any community partners who wish to continue this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you, Ms. Johnson, for stepping in on, I understand, short notice. Much appreciated. We'll open the floor to council if they have any comments or questions for you at this time. Councillor Schweinbenz, is that you, please?
Hi, thanks, Mayor Tallon. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, I thank you you've laid out a wonderful argument as to why we need to make things safer. You know, this is a blind spot for a lot of us men, I think. I didn't realize that my wife did not to single her out, but women are concerned about walking around our village at night. We do have a lot of dark spots, a lot of unsafe spots, and that as a man walking around, you wouldn't even realize it. So maybe council should consider some changes to maybe our lighting or to our attitude and approach towards safety in our village. So I don't have any specific ideas, but I think it's something that maybe we can put on our list of priorities for next year. So thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, and thank you for that very informative presentation. I know Councillor Schweinbenz spoke as a male, and I will perhaps offer a little bit of perspective as a female. I do agree with Councillor Schweinbenz that there is a fear in women of walking alone at night. But beyond that, intimate partner violence seems to be on the increase to the point where it continually receives a lot of media coverage. So I would encourage you to forward to council your recommendations once again on what we as a council can do or direct our thoughts and opinions to higher levels of government. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Councillor Vital. Councillor Pacho.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you for your presentation. Yeah, like Councillor Vital just mentioned, it's on the local news now and again in regards to how women are treated and how they're abused and a lot of spousal abuse that's been going on now, and there's many more homes that are being opened up to try and help these poor women who are being abused. And it's just a shocking statistics that's out there. So thank you for your presentation, and I hope that we can try in some way to help out in this situation as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Jackson.
Excuse me. When I first started off in the banking business a long, long time ago, because now I'm an old guy, I used to come across a situation when I was out on collections where females had been very badly abused, in some cases physically really bad. And I would wander down to the police station where I lived and I would report it. And they would look at me and sort of tap me on my head like, little boy, go away. They would use the attitude, but they deserve it. And it seems to me all these years later that we have not solved this problem. It's something that should not be around. It's people, this should not happen. And I don't know how we get through to the senior politicians, especially in Ottawa, to deal with this matter. And until such time as they take it seriously, we're just going to have a difficult time. And thank you very much for your presentation. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And for your insight too, I do want to mention that we are in conversations at provincial and federal levels about this. So we hear you loud and clear. It's definitely something that nationally is something we need to change on a big scale. But at the same time, we recognize that municipalities often get left out of those big conversations when really you are the key change makers in your community. And that one-on-one, like close-knit type of community denunciation that you can have and challenging that stigma on a intimate level like this is invaluable. So yes, absolutely. There are things in Ottawa that need to change, and as soon as possible. And I definitely can't understate how important your attention to this matter is too. So thank you so much again for having me here.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. And again, as Councillor Vital suggested, if there's any recommendations or things, please put them in writing that our council might be able to do, or encourage our provincial and federal elected leaders to advance, then by all means, please have the liberty to write council with those. And I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
I think that takes us to item 10 on our agenda, which is correspondence. Can I have a motion to receive the correspondence, including...
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbenz. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And the correspondence is received. Business arising from correspondence. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Your Worship. The page 43 letter dated September the 15th from the Youth Parliament, British Columbia. I say this every year, so I would suggest that this letter be sent to the high school in Agassiz, and that if there's an eligible, hopefully Harrison student that would like to attend this, it's a very worthwhile session that they go through at the legislature. And if there is a problem with the payment for the registration, that the village will look into that. So that's my motion, to send this to the high school.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Any discussion on the motion to send this to the high school? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and we'll forward that correspondence to the high school for their attention. Thank you. Any other business arising from correspondence? Councillor Faccio.
Also, the page 55, the letter dated September the 8th, the Agassiz Harrison Food Coalition. They'd like an invitation to attend one of our meetings. I would suggest that our staff reach out to them and just put them to go through the process to come as a delegation to attend one of our meetings. I don't know if you need a motion for that or not. I can just direction to staff.
I think we can do that, absolutely invite them to be a delegation at a future council meeting. If I read the letter correctly, they were extending an invitation to the village to attend their meetings of this collaborative initiative. Is there anyone on council that...
So I can appreciate what the letter said, but I also maybe it might be an idea for them to attend a delegation so the public gets an insight of what they're actually doing.
Okay. A motion to write, from Councillor Fascio to write the Agassiz Harrison Food Coalition to extend an invitation to be a delegation at a future council meeting. Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that motion. Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, and we'll invite them to come here. Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Is there anyone, there wasn't an invitation from their executive director to attend their future meetings. Is there anyone on council that would be interested in attending? Councillor Schweinbenz, I see your hand.
Yeah, I think it's a worthwhile endeavor for someone in our community, if not someone from council, then maybe somebody's very passionate about this topic, they can step forward, but if nobody does, I'm happy to attend.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz. I don't know if we need a motion to that effect, but it's corporate officer.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Often in these situations, council will appoint a member to be a council liaison to an external committee. So I would maybe recommend a motion, if Councillor Schweinbenz is interested, that Councillor Schweinbenz be appointed as council liaison to the Agassiz Harrison Food Coalition.
Motion, thank you, corporate officer, moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Fascio. I'm looking at you, Councillor Schweinbenz. Are you okay with being a liaison?
Yeah.
On behalf of council to this?
You bet.
You see
Yes.
you're nodding. Any discussion on that motion? I don't see any. Call the vote. All in favor? And thank you, Councillor Schweinbenz, for being our liaison to the Agassiz Harrison Food Coalition. Any other business arising from the correspondence this evening? Councillor Fascio, I see your hand up on the screen, but I'm not sure if that's a holdover from the last comment.
No, that is me. Yeah, thanks, Mayor Tallon. A couple things about the correspondence. I was going to mention the Food Coalition, but so that's already been done. The letter from Mrs. True, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, on page 17 of our package. She mentions something that I think would be a good idea if the seniors housing proposal is advanced at all by the province or by the applicant, that perhaps council should consider getting some people involved to take a look at the details about it. So I like that. I just wanted to comment on that. Also wanted to comment on the petition. Wanted to thank the people who signed that petition and who extended it to council. I think it's an important piece that council needs to consider if the application is advanced in any way, which is doubtful, but I think the petition is important. And also something that's not on the correspondence, but that we have all received, is the 180 some odd letters that were sent to the minister and to the MLA. We have received copies of that. Thank you very much again for those letters. They again will be considered down the road should we ever have to discuss this senior proposal again. So just wanted to shout out to the people who were involved in that. And lastly, foster parents letter. I have a beloved sister in Ontario who was adopted by my parents as a little toddler. And so just a shout out to all the foster parents out there. I think it's Foster Parents Month, and we should honor them for their valued ways that they've stepped up and helped people's lives in many, many different ways. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbens. Yes, I echo thanking and acknowledging the work of foster parents, as Minister Wickens has suggested we do. It's a great reminder for this month of October. The late correspondence that came in from Mr. Garneau, that will be responded to hopefully in the next week or so. Just haven't had time to review it thoroughly. So that we'll get a response from myself, which I will share with council. Any other business arising from the correspondence? Councillor Schweinbens, your hand is up on the screen. Is that?
Must be a holdover. Sorry,
That's a
Mayor
holdover?
Talon. I
Okay.
will
Just
lower it.
wanted-
There, it's off.
Thank you. I just wanted to double check before we move on.
Thank you.
We're moving to item 12 on the agenda, reports from councillors. And just so people listening in know, council, in the effort of time, have asked me, and I've consolidated notes from the UBCM convention, and individual councillors may speak to it, but the full report will be one I will deliver at the beginning of my mayor report on the next item. So without any further ado, the reports from councillors. Who would like to start? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I am looking forward to you delivering your extensive report on UBCM. However, I also was quite active and involved in some ministry meetings through Lower Mainland LGA. And if you'll indulge me briefly, I'll certainly go over those. The first meeting was with the Honorable Randy Neal, Minister of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship. And there were two resolutions that currently were put forth by Lower Mainland LGA. It was a very good meeting, and the request was that the province provide new funding programs for local and regional governments to support preparation or updating of industrial land inventories, assessments, strategies, plans, and guidelines for their protection and optimal development. A little bit of a discussion that a sufficient supply of industrial lands in all categories is critical for local, regional, and provincial economies. And industrial lands face scarcity and underdevelopment challenges and loss and conversion to other uses. The second minister's meeting was with the Minister of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness, the Honorable Kelly Green. I had the privilege of leading this meeting, and there were two resolutions that have been put forward by Lower Mainland LGA membership. The first one is implementation of the BC flood strategy to protect flood-prone communities. And the request is that the province supports the BC flood strategy by investing in floodplain solutions to support dialogue between local governments, First Nations, and provincial staff to ensure effective governance, policy, and funding support for the strategy's implementation. The second one, the meeting with that minister, was strengthening regional emergency manage capacity. Pardon me, and this was originally submitted by Lions Bay. So the request was that the province amend the Local Government Act and Community Charter to authorize regional districts to provide emergency planning and resource services, not only to electoral areas, but also to member municipalities that choose to opt in, ensuring a centralized and coordinated approach to, excuse me, that this would ensure a centralized and coordinated approach to emergency management. Several regional districts already facilitate shared emergency management. However, the current arrangements are ad hoc and dependent on local agreements. The proposed change would provide consistent legislative authority for regional districts to offer these services more broadly. And another meeting with the Minister of Agriculture and Food, Honorable Lana Popham. The first issue was increasing ministry funding for agricultural and was originally submitted from Pitt Meadows. Lower Mainland LGA request is that the province raise the agricultural funding in BC to the national to the national average to support much needed investments in the agricultural sector. Second issue was strengthening agricultural land commission enforcement capabilities. And this request was that the province provide increased funding to the Agricultural Land Commission to significantly expand its compliance and enforcement team to improve oversight and reduce non-compliant land uses that threaten the integrity of agricultural land. My apologies for that little bit of a coughing. Furthermore, I attended the IT security training at Memorial Hall on September 9th. I do want to point out that September 14th was another very successful Terry Fox run and walk, and I thank all participants, community members, and our volunteers. The weather was perfect, and a huge thank you to all who donated for such an important and worthwhile cause. Donations to date have reached almost $10,000. September 19th and 20th, I attended strategic planning session for Lower Mainland LGA in Langley City. And September 22nd to 26th, I did attend UBC convention in Victoria. Mayor Tallon will be reporting, but I did want to point out that I'm very pleased to report that our council resolution submitted to Lower Mainland LGA was fully endorsed by UBC members and will now be forwarded by UBCM to the province for consideration. And that's my report, Mayor Tallon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. There's a lot of colds going around. You're not alone with, I got a frog in my throat this evening too.
Just a tickle there.
Who would like to go next? Councillor Faccio?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll leave the UBCM to your report, but it was a great week, very busy, many sessions, and I'd just like to thank Councillor Vital and CAO Cook for their presentation at the Small Talk Forum on the difficult circumstances that they had to go through here a few years ago. The Walk for Reconciliation, as the Mayor pointed out, was last week, and it was a good turnout, beautiful day, and it was well presented, a good speakers. Other than that, I'll leave the report on charting the course. That was the main topic for this year's convention in Victoria, but I'll leave it to the mayor to do the full presentation on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just leave the UBCM to everybody else. So I'd just like to report on Communities in Bloom. Two of our very, very able members, Susan and Teresa, attended the banquet on the 2nd of October. And Harrison outdid itself. We were recognized in 3 different categories. The first one had to do with Canada Day and community planting. The second was the promenade along Esplanade Avenue. And also we won blooms for the plant and floral display. We also received an anniversary tree and a plaque. We received 3 other plaques for the recognition. Now, for competing for the first time since 2014, I think this is a really, really great accomplishment. I certainly take my hat off to all the other CIBC members, Susan, Janice, and Margaret. But I must say one thing, the glue behind all our success was our corporate clerk, Amanda. She kept us straight all the time. She made sure we were organized. The agenda was all done. We just carried out what we required to do. Also, Jace was a big help on our committee, and we are certainly look forward to going bigger and better last year. Just my hats off to everybody, and thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson, and congratulations to you and your committee for winning those awards. Councillor Swinebens, a report from you this evening. You're waving off. Look forward to when you're back in town in the coming day, reporting out next time. That takes us to reports from Mayor, and I will read sort of our collective report from the Union of BC Municipalities Conference in Victoria, held September 22nd to 26th. So on behalf of Council, I'm pleased to report on the clinics, forums, study sessions, workshops, and provincial cabinet panels attended by myself, Councillors Vital, Faccio, and Jackson. Councillor Vital and CAO Cook delivered a very well-received small talk forum presentation entitled From Dysfunction to Collaboration. This presentation, informed by the experience of this village council during 2022 to 2024, encouraged all local governments to put in place strong codes of conduct with clear and binding sanctions in the event that an elected leader violates the code of conduct. A number of study sessions were attended, delivering affordable housing, challenges and opportunities. Learned of the many examples and many ways local governments support housing initiatives. Learned very many examples of providing land at nominal rates, waiving of certain development cost charges, taxes, and other types of things that local governments do to support housing initiatives. Another study session was Resilient Local Leaders, charting the course to support mental health in elected officials. Examples of mental health crisis precipitated by not only the responsibility of governing, but also enduring personal attacks on social media and in person. This session noted that elected officials are not covered by WorkSafe BC, and their associated mental health supports are not available to elected leaders. Later in the conference, I think there was a motion that was passed to advocate that elected leaders have these things available to them like other employees in the province. Healthcare, heart of the community, examples and discussion on how local government can support the delivery of healthcare. Several forums were attended. The Municipal Insurance Association, there was an AGM, and local mainland government association meetings, which Councillor Vital reported on. Several cabinet panels also. Cabinet Town Hall, Tariffs and Growing BC's Economy. Cabinet members outlined the impact of U.S. tariffs on BC's economy and the provincial response, including strategic investments in key resource and infrastructure areas. Workshops, Cowichan Tribe's Aboriginal Title Court decision and implications for local governments. This important court case raises questions concerning how or whether Aboriginal title and fee simple title, that is privately owned land, can coexist on the same piece of land. This case has been appealed by, I think, upwards of 6 or 7 different parties. A lot of eyes are watching what happens with this and what kind of guidance we get from the courts on that. Clinics, a path forward for responsible conduct. Discussions on what the Ministry of Municipal Affairs has heard from local governments, experts and others about what isn't working and how mandatory codes of conduct, sanctions and enforcement could support local governments with good governance for communities. The session also provided an opportunity to provide feedback on the next steps towards responsible conduct. In addition to attending and participating in these forums, Council met with the Ministry of Transportation senior staff, emphasized the benefits to the village, being able to collaborate with transportation this summer on drainage and repaving, real benefits to the community. The Council lobbied for reducing the speed limit on Hot Springs Road from 50 kilometers at the Sasquatch Bench through to the school zone. Also lobbied for additional marked lights and pedestrian crossings on Hot Springs Road and Lillooet Avenue. Ministry of Health senior staff noted the success of the primary healthcare center and happy to have partnered with Fraser Health and the Fraser Health Foundation to make this happen. We inquired about provincial assistance to help offset the costs incurred by the village in renovating and providing the healthcare center space. Meeting with senior staff from the Ministry of Housing. A general discussion on the proposed senior housing project ensued. Meeting with Minister Neal, Water, Land and Resource Stewardship. A general discussion on the public's use and enjoyment of Harrison Hot Springs, noting that persons continue to modify and create pools at the source of the hot springs. We advocated for better public education and better signs encouraging the public to respect the area. Meeting with Minister Anderson, Minister for State for Local Governments and Rural Communities. Encourage the province to make changes to legislation that would require local governments to have codes of conduct with enforceable sanctions for violations of the code of conduct. Encourage the province to appoint an ethics commissioner who could provide independent advice to the ministers where councils become dysfunctional, including the ability to make a recommendation to remove a councillor when the code of conduct or oath of office is violated. Meeting with Minister Kang, Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sports. Emphasize the value and success of the resort municipal infrastructure program, encouraging that this program be continued. Many valuable projects are being planned. Lobbied for increasing the accommodation tax base to include private campgrounds and thereby increasing the overall pool of RMI funding available. Meeting with Minister Parmar on forests. Lobbied for greater local input and say over where forestry activities occur, especially for resort communities whose viewscapes could be adversely impacted by nearby forestry activity. And a meeting with the senior staff from the Ministry of Infrastructure. We lobbied in support of School District 78, Fraser Cascade's top priority to construct a new school in Harrison Hot Springs. Advised that the village is prepared to work with the school board and explore options for both the school board and the village. The Resort Community Collaborative Mayor's Meeting with the Minister of Tourism, Arts, Culture and Sport. We lobbied there, again, for maintaining and expanding the Resort Municipal Infrastructure Program. We noted many successes, including highlighted in this meeting, the new accessible playground on our beach. We noted how this program provides real tourism value and achieves lasting results that small communities such as Harrison Hot Springs would not otherwise be able to do. And that is our report from our UBCM conference. And I can turn to the rest of my mayor's report. We'll just take a moment. Tonight is 1 year, less a day, since I was sworn in as mayor of Harrison Hot Springs. And I'd like to just take a minute to use this occasion to share what this last year has been like for me. To begin, being mayor has been one of the most interesting and rewarding experiences in my life. I thought that chairing council meetings might be difficult. Instead, with guidance from staff on procedures and with each councillor governing themselves in a thoughtful and respectful manner, and chairing meetings has become something I look forward to. In fact, I don't recall a single point of order or challenge to the chair being raised in the last year. I also know that each councillor has fully participated in the work of council and guided by the principle of acting in the best interests of the village. I've enjoyed coming to know each councillor better and understand their priorities and perspectives on the village. And while we may not agree with each other on every matter before council, these differences are respected. The differences have not become personal, and the next item before council is then discussed and debated. I have also seen firsthand how competent and thoughtful our village staff are. I've enjoyed seeing them work to make our village a better place to live and work. And speaking of work, much happens behind the scenes without fanfare and without celebration day in, day out. Safe drinking water is delivered throughout the village, wastewater is treated, public washrooms are well maintained, the beach and public spaces are cleaned, and present the village in the best possible light. A small number of village staff do so much. Village staff also actively support 4 very active committees and 1 commission. These committees provide valuable contributions to the village, and I thank those volunteers, committee members, for their time, knowledge, and sharing their experience on these committees. Village staff have also been working hard to deliver on council direction. In the last year, the new accessible beach playground was opened, the new boat launch buildings were completed, upgrades to Spring Park were completed, and the primary healthcare facility in the village was opened. In short, stuff is getting done. Council's delivering on the village's priorities. Looking ahead to the next year, I look forward to upgrades on Hot Springs Road and Lillooet Avenue and the associated upgrades to the village's stormwater system and additional parking. With the village's resource development strategy being approved, I'm looking forward to working on streetscaping enhancement on Lillooet Avenue west of the intersection, installation of a dedicated canoe, kayak, or stand-up paddleboard dock, and the design and installation of a splash or spray park to complement the playground on the beach. And of course, the final design on the dike project being presented to the village. And should the province approve funding, working with Agassiz Harrison Community Services to design and answer the many valid questions concerning a subsidized independent seniors housing project before making any final decision on that project. And should the province approve funding for a new school in Harrison Hot Springs, we'd like to work with the Fraser Cascade School District 78 to explore opportunities to maximize the benefits to the village a new school might bring. I'm grateful for this opportunity to chair this council and contribute to this village that my wife and I love so much. I'm ever mindful of the trust given to me by the residents of Harrison Hot Springs to discharge this responsibility. In addition to the UBCM conference, on September 3rd, I attended the Agassiz Fall Fair. I was not invited to perform celebrity goat milking, but I'm sure I will be on their radar next year, so stay tuned for an update on that. The Terry Fox Run, I participated in that, enjoyed that very much. There was an Agassiz Harrison Community Services Board meeting on September 18th. Again, the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. And on October 1st, there was a Letsamot C2C meeting with our neighbors in this area. And that is my report for this evening. Which takes us to item 14 on our agenda, which is reports and minutes from committees and commissions. And a motion, Corporate Officer.
Thank you. Yes, there's 4 sets of minutes to be received for information. the Advisory Planning Committee meeting minutes of April 2nd, 2025, Accessibility Committee meeting minutes of April 28th, 2025, the Communities in Bloom Committee meeting minutes of August 12th, 2025, and the Age Friendly Committee meeting minutes of August 21st, 2025.
Second, Your Worship.
Motioned by Councillor Jackson and seconded by Councillor Fascio on receiving those minutes and reports. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And those reports are, and minutes are received. Item 15, reports from staff. I think item A is, I'm turning it over to you, CAO Cook.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. So this is the quarterly report for the third quarter of the year. As the previous quarter, the third quarter has seen the nearing of completion of some capital projects, master plans that are nearing completion, and hopefully we'll be able to get them in front of council here in the coming months. I'll just go through each heading and kind of highlight where we're at. Under emergency management, staff with the support of council is continue and invest in emergency management training, including as well as issuing the project to the consultant for the public notification and evacuation route planning. Through FireSmart, we keep addressing, you can see the long list of items that we keep addressing through the CWRP. Under community services, as you can see, there's a list of community events that have been handled through our community services department, including the addition of the temporary dog park in Spring Park, which I understand is being very well received by the community. Social media stats are there under communications. Pretty impressive numbers for between July and September for views. Moving on to getting to Harrison, just want to make sure that the community keeps checking back to our website for updates on our projects. It's updated as needed. Moving on to the finance department, as it was stated last quarter, we did issue out our tax bills earlier this year, which seemed to, again, be very well received, and I'm happy to report that there will be no tax sale this year. Utility bills were sent out, and matter of fact, we had our CFO hand delivering some of the bills today due to the postal strike. You'll see some new faces coming in a couple weeks here to our field staff. Under corporate services, you can see that there's been 10 committee and commission meetings on top of the regular council meetings, as well as the 5,600 pages from an FOI that came in. It's quite an impressive amount of information that needed to be consolidated from our corporate services department. I always encourage people when they're making FOI requests to narrow down their request and identify exactly what they're looking for, because the amount of staff time that is spent on these types of requests is extensive and can be very expensive. And I also want to thank Amanda for the amazing binders that she prepared for the UBCM conference, keeping everybody aligned. Thank you very much, Amanda. As everybody knows, we have this project that is on Lillooet and Hot Springs Road, which includes drainage. It has been waylaid a little bit because they're having to reconstruct a good portion of the road because due to its condition. So it is taking a little bit longer, but I'm confident that we'll end up with a good product that'll last us for a long time. Not much more to update regarding the dike upgrade. Our engineers are doing their work, and matter of fact, had a call from a resident today requesting an update, and unfortunately I wasn't able to provide an update, but I did remind them that we'll be updating our website and also notifying the public in the event of more information as it comes forward. Through the Fire Smart grant, we've issued a project to Kurtz Construction for the to replace the exterior of the village office. Moving all the way down to the fire department, you can see they've been active both for on calls, 42 calls for service, as well as training. Our development and planning and development department has seen multiple applications, so there's lots going on there. Bylaw enforcement in the last quarter saw 34 bylaw complaints and issued 196 bylaw enforcement notices. So it's been a very busy summer, and they're happy to see a little bit quieter fall. Before I provide the recommendation, I do want to send a message to Mayor and Council, as well as my team. The incredible dedication and hard work demonstrated by you this past quarter and throughout the year is truly inspiring. Your commitment to serving the village of Harrison Hot Springs with integrity, vision, perseverance has not gone unnoticed. The results speaks volumes, from the thoughtful planning to the execution of initiatives that have truly made a difference. I am genuinely proud of what we've accomplished and the positive impact it continues to have on the village. So I thank you for your tireless efforts in setting such a high standard of excellence. It is an honor to work alongside such a capable and passionate team. So in front of the recommendation for council is that the Chief Administrative Officer 2025 third quarter update report dated October 8th, 2025 be received for information.
So moved, Your Worship.
Seconded.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Swinebenz. Got you that time. Discussion on that motion. Councillor Faccio.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just like to thank Chief Administrative Officer for this outstanding report. This really answers a lot of questions from our public who sometimes seem to wonder that they don't seem to know what's going on in our community, but here it is. Here it is in black and white. I'm really impressed with the amount of work that's being carried out from the emergency management. That's one of the areas that unfortunately we get feedback saying that not enough is being done for emergencies in the village. And of course, the social media stats, that just proves how many people are involved. July 1st, September the 29th, 134,662 viewed across all posts, 54 new Facebook followers. And in the grand opening of the health center, over 9,000 views. This just proves there is a lot of communication that goes out to the public from our staff to make sure that the public are kept abreast of what's going on in this community. Everything is here that our crew and staff spent many hours and work hours putting all this together. Like our Chief Administrative Officer here, there's a combination of a great working staff and the support of the council, the mayor and council. And it's the last year, as the mayor has just read out, has just shown the amount of progress that we've gone forward after the previous upheaval on council. So again, I thank this, the staff and council and our CEO for an outstanding report. Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Councillor Faccio. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon, through you to our CAO. Thank you for this extensive report. And I certainly hope that our residents will all take the time to read it. When I reviewed it, I thought, oh my goodness, what a tremendous amount of work our staff have done, and I want to commend each and every one of you for your good, solid team effort. And I can't speak for the rest of council, but I'll speak for myself. In all my years on council, I have never had or witnessed such a productive team. You are to be commended, and I thank you. With that, I have one comment, Mayor Tallon. I would like to comment on the corporate officers' report on FOIs. FOI requests are important in helping to ensure transparency and accountability in local governments. One of the benefits of attending UBC is the ability to network and speak with colleagues. So during some of those networking sessions, it became apparent that the cost of fulfilling FOI requests continue to increase. The fee schedule on the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act doesn't reflect the cost or the time of staff. In our small community, administrative capacity is limited and staff must divert from other essential tasks to focus on large FOI requests. So I'm going to put forth to council that it may be worthwhile for us to propose a resolution at next year's UBCM requesting that the province review and update the FOI fee schedule to reflect true costs pertaining to staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Any other comments? I echo, and I wonder, CAO Cook, on a monthly basis, are you able to estimate how much staff time and hours is presently being used to respond to FOI requests?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I can pass that on to the corporate officer to give exact numbers. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't have exact numbers at this time. What I can say, it can fluctuate quite a bit, so it really depends on the request. And sometimes it depends on the timing of the requests when they come in. I try really hard to work with applicants to determine exactly what they're looking for so that we can narrow the scope a little bit and try to minimize the impact to day-to-day operations while ensuring that they're still getting access to the information or what they're seeking. So I don't have exact numbers, but it can take a considerable amount of time for a larger request that's very broad.
Thank you. This last quarter, is it uncharacteristically busy, or is it normal or slow in comparison to the first 2 quarters of the year? In your estimate, is this an unusual 3 months, or is it normal?
Thank you. We are, in terms of the number of requests, we are on par with previous years. I wouldn't say that we have received more requests than normal. However, the request, even just one request for a small organization with a small, no FOI department, just an FOI coordinator or head, it can have a significant impact. So the number of requests isn't always an accurate reflection of kind of the workload.
Thank you, Corporate Officer. I think we should talk about this at a future council meeting about some kind of resolution that might go up through the Lower Mainland and some sort of balancing when hit with an extraordinary freedom of information request that generates nearly 6,000 pages of correspondence. That's a lot to go through for anyone. Councillor Schweinbentz, I see your hand.
Well, thanks, Mayor Talon. I wanted to make some comments about CAO Cook's report. And what I see here is just fantastic teamwork. You know, a lot got done in the last year, and I'm looking forward to getting a lot done in the next year. I'm hoping that we can be strategic about what we want to get accomplished in the next 12 months. It's been a fantastic and interesting 12 months up to this point. And the team that is in front of us as council, they're just fantastic in the office, in the field and in the office. And I think Harrison's lucky to have them all. I had the honor and privilege of seeing a bunch of really interesting, beautiful cities in the last couple of weeks, anything from Florence and Venice and Verona and a few different ones in between. And they all have their wonder and their warts. They're all work in progress. They all have the same issues, just at different scales as we have. And, you know, and I'm sure that they've got politicians and workers that are trying to solve those issues just as we are. And Harrison's a work in progress. We've got the right team to right this ship. And I'm very optimistic about the next year. So thank you, team, for getting all that done on that report.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbentz. The only other observation I'll make on the report is I'm very happy with the investment into emergency management, the training, both for staff and that the fire department's done. I think investing in that just improves resiliency and enhances the village's ability to respond in the event of an emergency, should that ever happen. You still have your hand up, Councillor Schweinbentz. I was going to call the vote on that. Your hand is down. So no other comments. I'll call the vote on accepting the report. All in favor? And that report is carried unanimously, accepted unanimously. Item 15B, report of corporate officer. Over to you.
Thank you. I have a report regarding a release of closed meeting resolutions. On September 16th, Council had a closed meeting which resulted in several motions being passed that are being released to the public this evening. The background of the report provides details about the two topics, the first being pay parking and the second being the land lease and water lot sublease at the Ranger Station Harrison Yacht Club location on Rockwell Drive. There's a lot of information contained in the report, but the recommendations sum up the end result, and so I'll move directly to the recommendation. However, I'm happy to answer any questions on these two topics. So the recommendation is that the following resolutions from the September 16, 2025 special closed council meeting be received for information.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Schweinbentz. Discussion on that motion. Not seeing any, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. Which moves us to item C. Corporate officer, over to you again.
Thank you. So this report is regarding the 2026 regular council meeting schedule. As per the community charter, council is required to prepare a schedule of dates, times, and places of regular council meetings. The one meeting that I wanted to highlight for council is highlighted there in the discussion piece. Normally, there would be 2 meetings in January. However, given the office closure due to the holidays, we're recommending that the practice be followed from previous years when the timing lines up that way. So attached to the report is a copy of the proposed schedule, and the recommendation is that the proposed regular council meeting schedule for 2026 be approved as submitted.
Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that. Councillor Schweinbentz.
This might be a question for the next item on the agenda, but are we talking about not only days, the calendarization of these days, but also the timing of our meetings next year? Is that something that council wants to reconsider? I know that we moved to 5:30 several months ago, and maybe it's time we think about how that went, how the experiment is going, and implement it for next year. Perhaps something we talk about that in the next agenda item, or now, if you'd like. I'm not sure, Mayor Talon, how you'd like to handle that.
I think this motion just speaks to the dates of when there will be regular council meetings, and looking at the calendar just picks the dates out. If a discussion is warranted or a motion to amend our council procedures bylaw to change the time of meetings, then that can always be entertained with a notice of motion and discussed in due course. And I believe Councillor Faccio has a motion regarding location of meetings that is on this council agenda later this evening as well. So that'd be location will be discussed later, and time can come up at any time by amending our council procedure bylaw if council is of a mind to do that. Any other discussion on the motion? I don't see any. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And our agenda, our council meeting times are set. Uh, 15D is our Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator. Over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. At the June 18, 2025 Committee of the Whole, Council directed staff to refer the draft anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy number 1.42 to the Village's Legal Counsel for review and comment. Legal Counsel is generally supportive of the policy as drafted, noting only minor revisions are recommended before implementation. The revised draft before you is based on the model policy developed by Ledstone and Company, which has been dispersed to over 250 local governments in BC, Alberta, and the Yukon since 2020. The model policy was created to provide municipalities with a clear, legally sound framework to guide anti-racism and anti-discrimination practices at the local government level. The policy is not intended to supersede or supplant the other processes available to individuals or groups wishing to pursue avenues of formal complaint or redress under other village policies. This policy would formalize the process when a claim of racism and discrimination is made. Legal Counsel provided the following observations and recommendations. They found the definitions clear and sufficient, noting that well-defined terms help eliminate ambiguity and support consistent application. The definitions outlined in the draft policy are sourced from existing village policies and from the model policy, the source being the Canadian Race Relations Foundation Glossary of Terms. They suggested that the policy's purpose section explicitly reference alignment with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission Calls to Action, and the BC Human Rights Code. Legal Counsel confirmed that the policy and the Council Code of Conduct complement each other, noting that the code applies to Council and committee members while the policy has a broader scope. And finally, they support the inclusion of a 2-year review requirement to help ensure the policy remains relevant and effective over time. Attached to this report is an amended copy of the policy with added text shown in blue and removed text shown in red and struck through. This policy supports the Village's 2025-2026 strategic plan priorities, healthy, livable community, and public safety. And so the recommendations before you today are that Council receive the following report regarding Legal Counsel's review of the draft anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy number 1.42 for information, and that Council adopt anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy 1.42. Thank you.
Thank you, Communications and Community Engagement Coordinator. Can we take these in 2 bites, I think, because I do have some comments on the policy itself. Can I get a motion that we receive the first part there, Legal Counsel's review for our information? A motion to that effect. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Thank you for seconding that. Any discussion on the motion to receive the report, the review from our Legal Counsel? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor, accept the legal counsel's report. And now motion that we adopt the anti-racial, anti-discrimination policy 142.
So moved, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Vital. Discussion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Through you to our communications and community engagement coordinator. I'm happy that this was forwarded to our legal team for their review, and it came back with very, very, very few suggested changes and amendments. So I think that speaks to the good work that you did on this. Thank you. And you're absolutely right. There are a great number of local governments throughout the province that are adopting this kind of anti-racial and anti-discrimination policy. Thank you again, and I will be voting in favor of the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. I do have several comments on this, and I've spent a fair bit of time over the last several days with this draft policy. I am unclear reading the policy as to who can file a complaint. I know who the policy applies to. That's very clear, but it's not clear to me who can file a complaint or who can be a complainant. Communications and community engagement coordinator, can you point me to a clause that clarifies who can file a complaint?
It's my understanding that anyone who perceives to be under racial discrimination or experiencing that can file that complaint, whether that's a contractor within the community or someone that lives and works and plays within the community, as well as staff or council can also file complaints within, but perhaps our CAO or our corporate officer may be able to touch on that a bit further.
CAO?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think she's hit the nail on the head, is that this policy does apply to anybody that seems or feels as if that they've been discriminated against while in the village. As the council code of conduct obviously applies directly to council and committee members. So it is, I think it's intended to be fairly broad strokes, although we can explore if there are some concerns with respect to honing in exactly who it applies to. We can certainly explore those, but I believe the intent is for anybody that's within the village.
Thank you for the explanation. It would really be helpful if the policy was clear that any person can file a complaint, because I know who the policy applies to. It's contractors, us as elected leaders, staff, volunteers, etc. But it doesn't make it clear in the way that who can file a complaint. The term complainant is not defined, so I find without a clarification or without confirmation who can file a complaint, it's difficult to know how this will apply. My other comments on this are concerning confidentiality and privacy. And if indeed anyone can file a complaint, I looked through the report and it mentions confidentially once, but it doesn't, what's not clear to me is, are complaints made public? If someone files a complaint, is that complaint made public? And my follow-up question, we were just talking about it, are complaints that are received by the village subject to freedom of information requests? And can they be made public that way? And then a whole bunch of follow-on questions that deal with confidentiality and privacy. Are reviews by the CAO or management confidential? Are the conclusions of such reviews confidential? Are the reviews by the CAO or management, again, subject to freedom of information requests? Is a report by an independent investigator confidential? Is a report by an investigator subject to freedom of information requests? These are really important questions because of the potential for, allegations that aren't found can be very damaging if these are made public, if in fact it's not found. Is a report by an independent, is an independent investigator if an independent investigator finds insufficient evidence to support the complainant's allegation, is this finding confidential? Is this subject to FOI? And if a complainant makes a complaint and it is determined to be vexatious or in bad faith, is this also held in confidence, or is it also subject to freedom of information? These are really important questions because complaints made in this area are obviously critical of someone's character and how they're treating other people. And I think this policy needs to be very clear as to what's held in confidence, what is made public, if in fact anything, and whether or not I'd like information to understand if all these elements are subject to freedom of information requests. I got a number of little technical edits. I don't know who management is in 2C. Management will report to management. I think that may be just a misuse of a term. I don't know who a bystander is in 9G. It's not defined, and I don't know what that means exactly. And lastly, 9E.4, it conflicts with point 13. So there's some technical things which are minor, but my more substantive questions, I think, come with who can be a complainant to making it clear who's able to file a complaint. And once a complaint's received, having very clear understandings about what's made public, what's held in confidence, and how freedom of information request. These things are all, this is a very delicate area in receiving such a complaint. Just want to make sure the rules are well understood and articulated clear. CAO Cook.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tallon. It is definitely not the intent of staff to create a policy that can be weaponized. So if I may suggest to council that the policy be referred back to staff to address all of the items that Mayor Tallon has brought forth, and we can answer in a subsequent report at a future council meeting. Just kindly request that you forward the questions on to us.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor, so we'll see if we can amend that motion accordingly. I'm in favor of such a policy, but I want to make sure that the policy is clear and that there isn't ambiguity or blanks that have to be presumed, particularly dealing with the procedural aspects of investigating complaints and how once a complaint's received, how that complaint is handled. So I think taking a little bit of time and just clarifying these things, I don't think these are substantive edits, substantial edits, but I think it'll help, should we ever receive complaints, it'll just help how it's investigated and how it's treated, and give everyone confidence, including the complainant as well. The complainant may have sound reasons to remain anonymous and have the complaint kept in confidence. So discussing that and having that described more fully, I think, should be in all parties' interests. There's a motion on the floor to adopt the policy. I'd like to, do I amend the motion to corporate officer? Help me out with CAO Cook's suggestion.
Thank you. When a question's under consideration, you can move to refer an item. So you would move to refer it to staff to address the considerations tonight, and then council wouldn't vote on the previous motion.
With that, I'd like to refer this to staff to make sure sorry. Oh, Councillor Swinebens, please proceed.
Oh, that's fine, Mayor Tallon. I had my hand up earlier. You mentioned most of the things that I had a concern about as well. The complaint process in section 9, particularly B and C, I think it puts a lot, too much onus on the CAO to be the only moderator and arbiter of any complaint. And it's nothing against our current CAO, but this could be in the future a concern, because in a small community like ours, our CAO does most of the hiring, I think, and is heavily involved in all the processes. And for he or her to be the only one involved in terms of obtaining these complaints and processing these complaints, I think that's unfair. I think somebody from council or somebody else as a designate should be part of the team managing these complaints. So I agree. I think it's got to go back to staff.
Thank you, Councillor Swainbenz, and thank you, Councillor Fascio, for pointing me to look at the screen. I missed that. I appreciate that, and that's why I looked a little confused. I'd like to move that it be referred to staff. I have printed out written my questions, and happy to provide those to staff and the rest of council as well. Is there a seconder to that motion to refer? Councillor Swainbenz seconds it. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of referring to staff and opposed? 4-1 in favor, the motion carries and it's referred back to staff. And I will share this with my questions with staff and also with the rest of council. Item 15E, report of our planning consultant. Mr. Cossey, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. The British Columbia Heritage Conservation Act represents a foundational legislation framework for the protection of heritage sites, objectives, and archaeological assets within the province. In recent years, the Heritage Conservation Act has been subject to a series of amendments, each intended to reinforce conservation protocols, clarify statutory processes, and addresses the evolving roles and rights of Indigenous peoples and the general public. The significant changes have not actually been made to this act since 1996. The province has acknowledged that for years, First Nations, local governments, and stakeholders have raised questions with the Heritage Conservation Act and the administration. A joint working group on First Nations heritage conservation is overseeing this project, and this group has members appointed to it by the province and the First Nation Leadership Council. Originally, this legislation that they were talking about with the changes was going to be introduced in the spring of 2026, as identified on page 98 of your report near the bottom. However, at the UBCM conference, Premier Eby did indicate that that start date is no longer applicable and everything has been pushed back. But at the time that this report was written, it was originally scheduled to be released in the spring of 2026. So just so that everybody is aware of that, and I apologize for this oversight, but it came as a bit of a surprise with this lovely announcement. So overall, there's 5 major changes that are going to be happening to the legislation. It's going to be making permitting faster and easier, and it's going to be trying to avoid waiting for multiple permits. What they're suggesting in some of the scenarios is that instead of applying for 3 different permits, that you only have to apply for 1. And they're looking to change the rules and the processes. It's going to be helping people and communities rebuild quicker after disasters such as wildfires and floods. It's going to be protecting heritage more effectively, reducing the risk of accidental damage to sacred or other significant sites. It's going to strengthen the role of First Nations in the decision-making about their own heritage and ancestors in alignment with the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act, and increasing the transparency and the access to information, making it easier to find out if there is a protected site on your property to support planning and development decisions. So as I said earlier, it was the proposed date of the new legislation was the spring of 2025 or 2026, but that has been pushed back. The approach that this team has, that Joint Heritage team has been working at, they've been at this file since 2021, and they broke it into 3 phases. Phase 1 and Phase 2 were completed over 2022 to 2023, and Phase 1 was identifying priority areas of change. Phase 2 was defining the scope of the change, and Phase 3 was determining how the changes can be implemented through legislation, regulations, or policies. And all the public input for that phase closed on October 1, 2025. I am not too sure what's going to happen next with respect to this legislation. I do know that some of the municipal staff that have been involved in this have had to sign non-disclosure agreements, keep a lot of things close to their chest. Without total knowledge of what the proposed new legislation may or may not address, a discussion paper suggested that there are 3 issues that could happen. And this could include requiring local governments to see proof of an archaeological data check before issuing a development authorization or issuing a building-related permit, requiring the approving officer to see proof of this archaeological data check prior to issuing a PLA, and creating a regulation-made authority to require mandatory archaeological data checks for prescribed circumstances. Some of the additional things that we can look forward to is the expansion of the Heritage Conservation Act in Section 4. There's the ability to have agreements with respective First Nations. That is they're talking about is enhancing it, so that becomes more of a tool that can be utilized at the local level, and as well the creation of joint heritage management plans. So basically what the impacts will be, there'll be an expanded responsibilities in heritage management, and this scope will likely necessitate the development of comprehensive inventories and assessment, and may result in increased demands on staff, expertise, and resource allocation. In addition, there's the enhanced collaboration with Indigenous peoples. So this will strengthen the consultation protocols and establish collaborative partnerships with local First Nations, which will allow us to incorporate Indigenous knowledge systems and cultural practices into a heritage management process. There'll be changes to the permitting and the compliance requirements, so training may be required to ensure staff can accurately interpret and apply the updated act, and municipal bylaws and community plans may need to be aligned with the revised provincial legislation, whatever that may or may not be at this particular point in time. With respect to public engagement and transparency, there'll be enhanced mechanisms for collecting and disseminating information regarding local heritage. Resources will also support transparency and community involvement. The resource implications and support needs. This could add additional pressures on municipal budgets and personnel, so provincial support, including the provisions of guideline materials, training opportunities, and ongoing communications will be essential to assist municipalities in the transition. And in addition to that, I would strongly encourage that we look to getting some additional training funds when we see the results of that legislation. All is not lost. This is a lovely opportunity for some innovation where we can look at adopting a better heritage management system into our approvals process, so local governments can foster more inclusive, resilient, and culturally vibrant communities that reflect the full diversity of their histories, and we can have all of that in one source for an information package, as opposed to going to 4 or 5 or 6 different spots to secure the information. So with that, Your Worship, what we're recommending is that this report regarding the October 6th report regarding pending changes to the Heritage Conservation Act be received for information.
Thank you, planning consultant. Motion to that effect. Moved by Councillor Vital, seconded by Councillor Faccio, I believe. Discussion on that motion. Councillor Swinbanks.
Thanks, Mayor Tallon, and thank you, Ken, for your presentation. I see this as an opportunity, but I'm wondering, maybe Councillor Vidal could answer. Do we, through the Lower Mainland Government Group, have an opportunity to have some say in this at all, or are we going to be asked by the province our opinion about all this? Is anybody aware of that?
Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon, through you to Councillor Schweinbach. That was actually the question that arose at UBCM when the discussion on the resolution floor, there was a resolution put forward because the concern was that local governments were not being adequately consulted in changes to the Act. During Premier Eby's address, he indicated that he had heard what UBCM membership had said and requested, and there was a very good indication from him that it will be taken into consideration before the Act is adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Any
Thank
other
you.
comments? Councillor Pacho.
Yeah, after the receipt of the information, I would like to make an amendment, Your Worship.
Thank you. This is, an important area and complex, dealing with Indigenous rights, Section 35 consultation, and any number of things. Very tricky area. I guess we'll watch this quite closely to see what the province comes up with in legislation. Councillor Pacho, you wanted to move an amendment to the motion? Did I understand correctly?
I would just like to move that we move this discussion, a more in-depth discussion at our retreat. I think there's more in this that we have to discuss that could involve, well, it involves everything to do with our zoning and our development in the whole community. So I think we need an in-depth discussion and of course, whoever has to be there to help us with the discussion. But I think, anyway, I think we should have a further, more in-depth discussion and add it to the agenda for the retreat. Thank you. That's my amendment.
CEO Cook, do we need an amendment? Is that, maybe you can help us out here with the amendment, how to deal with this procedure?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. What I might recommend is that you receive the report for information, then propose a subsequent motion to refer it.
Seeing Councillor Fascio nod his head that might work. Councillor Jackson, comment.
Thank you, Worship. Reading this several times, this really concerns me. If things happen the way they could happen, that would mean if somebody owns a house and they want to put a swimming pool in their backyard, they need a permit from the municipality. That municipality could say, okay, fine, you can have a permit, but you're going to have to do a archaeological survey. Number one, who's going to pay for it? Number two, we know how bureaucracy works. Will you ever get it done? So we have to be very, very careful about this because it can really affect people in a negative way. Yes, archaeology is fine, but there has to be a separation between what people have and something could happen in the future. And I think we've got to tread very carefully on this. And I do think we have to send this back and wait for further information. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. Through you to Councillor Jackson. I acknowledge your concerns, and what I do think the best approach is to wait and see what kind of consultation or what UBCM speaks to on the matter. I do get regular updates on what UBCM is moving forward with the province. So rather than getting into a deep discussion about it currently, I think it would be more prudent to wait until we hear what UBCM has managed to consult with and with the province. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Pacho.
Just my last word on this, respect to everybody, but I think this is something that we have to discuss. And I mean, with our representative who can help us a lot sitting on the Lower Mainland, we don't really know when UBCM would come with more information. It could be a month, could be 6 months, it could be into next year. I don't know this, but I know Councillor Vital is more informed from that perspective, being on the LMLGA committee, but I think this is still something that we should discuss in depth because it does involve the village. So I will stay with my amendment that this be referred to the further discussion at the retreat.
Any other discussion on the motion to accept the planning consultant's report? See, and then there's a second motion. Yeah, you'll move it after. Yeah. Okay. So the motion to accept the report. I'll call the vote. All in favor, and the report is accepted. Councillor Fascio, your motion.
My motion is that we refer this to the retreat for more in-depth discussion, and maybe by then Councillor Vital may have some more information for us as well. Thank you.
I'll second that, Mayor Tallon.
Moved by Councillor Faccio, seconded by Councillor Swinebens. I agree there's a lot here, and I would simply note that getting a good briefing on the current Heritage Conservation Act would be a really good place to start, because it sounds like from the report here, it's enhancing and refining what's already there and increasing public awareness. So knowing what we're starting from would be probably a good place so we can actually understand and put in the right context what proposed amendments might be envisioned. Any other discussion to include this in a future discussion that we're going to have? Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I just want a little bit of clarity. I have no problem perhaps referring maybe to a committee of the whole. I do know that one of the agenda items is to hold a retreat, but I don't think that that has been determined or passed by council yet. So perhaps a referral to, at this point, to a committee of the whole would be more appropriate.
I agree. Until we agree on a retreat and what might be on the agenda, we'd have to get some advice, I think, from our staff and corporate officer in particular, whether such a subject is something for a closed meeting or committee of the whole meeting. So Councillor Fascia, was it just putting it over to a future conversation, council, and we're going to determine with to a retreat? Okay. Okay. Any other discussion on the motion to put this on the agenda for a future retreat? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor? And 3 in favor, opposed. I think it's an open conversation, but motion carries, and it'll be on the agenda for a future retreat. And that, I think, takes us to, let me just double check. Item 16, bylaws. Planning consultant, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. This application is looking to rezone, the applicant is looking to rezone their lot at 442 Littlewood Avenue from R3 small lot to C1 village commercial, and to redesignate the current official community plan designation from medium residential to village center. The two applications are required as the applicant wishes to set up a professional services commercial operation while still residing in the dwelling. At the April 7th, 2025 regular council meeting, the attached zoning amendment bylaw 1226/2025 was given first and second reading on the basis that the professional services be provided would include the provision of legal advice in a notary office. This has since been amended as the applicant's request to remove any such limitations as they require the entire permitted uses of the C1 zone, including a short-term rental. On the application form, the applicant indicates that the proposed use is for commercial and professional office use. The site is currently zoned R3, residential small lot, and the immediate property adjacent is also zoned R3. Outside of this, the eastern properties are zoned as R2, and Spring Park is located along the southern portion of the lot. To the north and west of this lot are properties zoned for commercial operations. Located on the site is a single-family dwelling which was constructed in 2018. The site is fully serviced and is approximately 0.15 hectares in size. As we all know, there are implications that happen when you change a lot from one zone to another zone. And in this case, we're going from a residential zone to a commercial zone. So some of these impacts include economic impacts, which would include the increase in property values and a boost to the local economy. Some of the other social impacts happen would be changes in the community dynamics, including a commercial lot. By introducing a commercial lot into a residential neighborhood can alter the social fabric of the area. This can also add to access to certain amenities. There's also environmental impacts. There's a higher energy consumption with commercial buildings, and there's a potential for a sustainable design. Planning considerations include the community opposition. As we're all aware, rezoning proposals often face opposition from local residents who may fear, in this case, to increase noise, traffic, and changes to their neighborhood aesthetics. Engaging with the community and addressing their concerns can be a crucial step in gaining their approval. And there could also be infrastructure upgrades. Commercial lots usually require better infrastructure than residential lots, including roads, parking facilities, and utility connections. There could be increased traffic and noise. Commercial properties typically attract a higher volume of visitors and vehicles, resulting in elevated levels of traffic congestion and noise pollution. However, as the site is located adjacent to Lillooet Avenue, a busy provincial roadway, the local residents may already be used to this traffic noise. Looking to limiting commercial uses, the bylaw as previously presented limited the commercial operations to business and professional offices only, as per the application received by the village. However, as noted earlier, the applicant requires an Airbnb to be set up with the proposed commercial options as well. If council deems that there is merit in moving this proposal forward, then council may want to consider requesting the applicant to set up a public notification meeting as per section 11 of the Development Procedures Bylaw 1090/2016. So what we've looked at with the changes to the bylaw, the proposed changes to be revised and updated in the bylaw 2026 include the following. We've created two types of Airbnb operations, a short-term and a short-term hosted Airbnb operations. The former would be utilized in commercial operations and would allow the user to stay for up to 30 days. The owner does not need to live on the site. The short-term hosted Airbnb operations would require the owner to live on the site, and the guests can stay a maximum of 7 days. This application has been designated as a short-term hosted rental, and as such requires both the owner to live on the site and the guests are allowed to stay for a maximum of 7 days. The maximum number of rooms that can be rented out is limited to 2. From a bylaw enforcement perspective, if short-term rentals are to be permitted in residential areas in the future, the village will need to develop a framework for enforcement, and we've already had one meeting with the bylaw officer. The corporate officer and myself to talk about some of these issues. But it still will have to be ongoing, but it's something that has to be considered as we move forward with these applications. So with that, Your Worship, we're recommending that the second reading of zoning amendment bylaw 1226, 2025 be rescinded, and that zoning amendment bylaw 12, 2026, 2025 be given second reading as amended, and that the applicant be required to host a public notification meeting in accordance with development procedures bylaw number 1090-2016 as the bylaw in effect at the time of application, and that staff be directed to hold a public hearing upon all requirements of the public notification meeting having been completed by the applicant. And Your Worship, the applicant, Ms. Ballantyne, is here to answer any questions and to make a presentation as she sees fit with respect to her application.
Your Worship,
Thank you, planning consultant. Yeah, some guidance here. Do we need a motion on the floor before we could invite Ms. Ballantyne to speak to this, or does that happen now?
Sorry. Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I would recommend holding off on the recommendation and allowing the applicant to present. I understand she has a PowerPoint that we're just going to get up on the screen. It would be more prudent to just wait until after. And hopefully, Councillor Schweinbenz, you can see it on your screen as well.
Ms. Ballantyne, you want to make your presentation at this time?
I can see it. Thanks, Amanda.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, John. Good evening. I was just wondering if there was a motion before that I got up here. So nice to see everyone, Mayor, councillors, Councillor Mark online, and all the village staff. My name is Leah Ballantyne. I'm a resident at 442 Lillooet Avenue. I am also First Nation from the Matthias Cologne Cree Nation, and I acknowledge today us all gathered here on Colts territory, which is part of the larger Stateless territory. So I'd just like to acknowledge that. And I'd also like to thank you for your time to give me the opportunity to clarify what it is that I'm asking with these zoning amendments. So bylaw number 1226, 2025, hoping to get second reading as amended. I was never looking for a fully open C1 commercial. What I was hoping for is that I am a lawyer by trade and notary public. I am registered in Manitoba and in British Columbia because I work with my First Nation in Manitoba, and I live and reside here as a permanent resident since 2018. So I've been in the Harrison community now for a number of years, and I'm sure some of you know me. I would like at my home to ensure that I get the restriction as it's stated on page 105 under sub 2, that the application be designated as a short-term hosted rental. That restriction ensuring that there would be no confusion as to why I'm asking for commercial. The remote's not working. Maybe you could just put the slide forward, Amanda. Thank you. Right, so the amendment could occur with a C1 with restrictions, limiting it again to short-term only vacation rentals. I fully intend on living on site. I already do home or work from home, but what I would like to do more specifically is I work with a number of First Nation communities from the local, regional, national, sometimes even international, and I would like to have work-based retreats at my home. I have a considerably sized home. It's over 4,000 square feet. I've got 4 extra spaces for parking within my yard or driveway area that could accommodate any guests. But what I want to ensure is that I'm properly licensed and insured in my home to make sure that this is all undertaken correctly, which is why I'm asking for the amendment today and amendment to the original application that was submitted in January of this year. Next slide. Again, as I just mentioned, the original application was submitted in January 2025. We had the report of Mr. Ken Cossey, the planning consultant, on July 14th, and the amended application as of today. And I would be certainly looking forward to having a public notification meeting and meet Section 11 of the Development Procedures Bylaw. Next slide. So I will say, when I looked at my application and was figuring out how it fit in with the official community plan, I wanted to mention that I am not a developer. I'm an independent lawyer and First Nation person living in Harrison Hot Springs. And that I did note that several of the goals of the OCP are aligned with the application that I am presenting in proposing that it maintains a neighborhood character. There's the Bramble Bank right down the street from me. That is a full-service vacation rental accommodations. We've got C1 zoning right across the street from me, as well as village commercial. So it's not like I'm in a residential area and far off the mark from what it is. In fact, the two serviced lots that were subdivided when my home was built. Maybe next slide, Amanda. I'm going to skip this one and maybe the next slide. Yeah, okay, so this is a good depiction. If you look on Lillooet Avenue and right in front of Spring Park, the two subdivided lots on which I reside now got put into an R3 small lot zone, but they are the only two lots that are allocated in that way in this entire corridor on a provincial highway. And I actually have lakefront property, or sorry, Lakeview property. So it would be more congruent to follow the consistent zoning that's labeled in this picture as purple or pink, which is again either C1 or Village Center. Next slide. And it's late, so I'm not even going to bore you with that. Next slide. That's all in your OCP. So I'd be happy to present this again at the public hearing meeting when that's, if and when that's proposed and passed by motion. Next slide. I did want to mention, though, on this slide, I live right behind or in front of, if you will, Spring Park, and it's one of 8 parks here in our community. And I wanted to point out that I have no neighboring home or structure to my north, south, or west. I only have one property beside me. So again, a C1 with restriction or village center rezoning would align with the OCP. Next slide. And just another photo and close-up of Spring Park. And also I'm adjacent to Miami Drive, which again, there's other notices and plans for Miami Drive in the OCP. And I think I'll leave it there. There's lots of my driveway space, but thank you very much for your time and having me on the agenda today. And if you have any questions for me, I would be happy to answer.
Any questions for Ms. Valentine from council? Councillor Swinbands, any questions from you? I can't see if your hand is raised.
Thanks, Martel. Not for Ms. Valentine, but for Ken. Have we not already done a public hearing on this? I thought we had something done already on this.
Mr. Cossey, can you answer Councillor Swinbands' question?
Yes, Your Worship. We did at one time, under the older bylaw, authorize staff to set up a public hearing, but just before that, we were informed that the information was inaccurate, so we withdrew that, and we've revised it to what we have in front of us today.
So did the public have an opportunity at that time to comment?
Not yet, no.
They haven't yet at all. Okay.
Oh, we canceled the public hearing before it happened because of
Oh,
the
I see. So we're legally bound to do one anyways, are we?
if that's council's wish, yes. But what we're recommending at this point, that the applicant go off and do a community meeting where she can explain everything to the public, like what she just did here tonight for council.
I see. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Cossey and Councillor Swinbanks. Shall we take this in parts or as 4 in a row? What's, council, give me a sense of how we'd like to move this forward. Moving it forward? We'll move the recommendation. Is there a mover for the recommendation?
I'll move it, Your Worship.
Moved by Councillor Fascio.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councillor Swinbanks. Any discussion on the motion?
Yeah, Mayor Tallon. Oh,
Councillor Swinbanks, go ahead.
sorry, I might have spoken out of turn. Sorry about that. Mayor Tallon, I'm supportive of this application. I think this has been a long road, and there's been a few road twists and turns in the road, so to speak. And I think it makes sense on this corner. I think it's a fantastic fit for that area, and I don't want to get in anybody's way of their business, and especially if it's not going to interrupt anybody else. So I'm supportive of all this.
Thank you, Councillor Swinbanks. Councillor Vital, I think I saw your hand.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. I'm struggling a little bit with this one. Should we approve the requested zone change? It has the potential to create a precedent, and to a certain extent would undermine the consistency of residential zoning versus commercial zoning. I'm leaning towards supporting maintaining this distinction between residential and commercial areas, but I certainly am prepared to vote in favor of the recommendation, and would look forward to receiving feedback from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Fascio.
I'll leave any of my comments, Your Worship, till after the public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call the vote on the motion. All in favor? And that carries. And we'll leave it to Mr. Cossey and Ms. Ballantyne to set up a public notification meeting and public hearing. Item 17 is new business. Councillor Fascio, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I brought this forward because prior to the pandemic, all the village business was conducted in the village office, which, by the way, I would just like, with your permission, on behalf of council, to send our condolences to the Chinasic family. It was Mrs. Chinasic, the family that donated that village office to the village in the 80s or late 70s, and he passed away. I believe it was last week. So, with your permission, our condolences to the family. Thank you. Yeah. So prior to that, the village office, and prior to that village office, there was a little bunkhouse that was the meeting place and the office. So, prior to the pandemic, all business, including voting, and except for town hall meetings or meetings that required more discussion, they were held in the Memorial Hall. So, tonight is a perfect example of what normally the meetings have been like prior to the last 2 or 3, where the housing was an issue on the agenda, that like this evening when you have 7 members of the public here. So the village office can seat 20 people. We're not required, any community is not required to have seating for the whole community. We have 2,000 people here. Chilliwack has maybe 60,000. They're not required to have seating for every member of the public. But since the pandemic, social media has taken a big course with regards to Zoom. And that's helped a lot of people if they wish to view the meetings and ask questions. And that's been used very well. Both Memorial Hall and the village office have received quite an update on the communication systems, with quite an amount of money being spent. So we, my motion is that as of January 2026, at the beginning of the new year, that we move back to the regular council meetings at the village office. And of course, if there's town hall meetings or meetings that may require, at the discretion of the mayor, that we can always have them here. But as you've read tonight in a report from our administrator and our wonderful staff who are promoting events for this hall all the time, this hall was built for events and for recreation. It was never built to have council meetings here. So I believe the use of this hall should be more used. We used to have, what do you call that game with the bats? The one that we had, the lacrosse box, the pickleball, not pickleball, is that pickleball? That was used here for many years. We've had youth events here where the youth have had meetings here. So I think there's other things that we have to make more use of this hall. This hall costs the village taxpayers several thousands of dollars to maintain every year. And the income is very small indeed. So with that being said, my motion is that as of January the 26th, 2026, that the regular council meetings and whatever other meetings the mayor decides on be held at the village office. Thank you, Your Worship.
Is there a seconder to that motion? Councillor Jackson seconds the motion. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Vital.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. Council chambers at the village office have very, very limited space and it's less accommodating for residents when important agenda items are discussed and debated. Continuing council meetings here at Memorial Hall provides the opportunity for residents to attend until such time as opportunities present themselves for a new village office are identified. This was clearly shown in our lands master plan. Well, I certainly appreciate that there is additional staff time needed for setup here at Memorial Hall for council meetings. I believe that the benefits of remaining at Memorial Hall, including capacity for community attendance, outweigh the minimal cost. And I also want to make note that when we have delegations attending, often numerous people will attend on behalf of that delegation. And it's very difficult to accommodate that at the village office. So therefore, I will not be supporting the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. Councillor Schweinbentz, I see your hand up. You're muted, Counselor.
You're right. I was on mute. My apologies. I've got some comments on this, but first a question. It was mentioned that we might be taking up an activity on Monday nights when we do these. Maybe a question for one of the staff members. Are we supplanting a youth group, or are we supplanting anybody from using this place every other Monday night?
Community Services Manager.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Schweinbentz, through Mayor Tallon to you. There are requests at times that come in that we do have to say that we cannot take based on the meetings on the Monday night. For the most part, some groups have been flexible, and we have some conference meeting style events that are starting on the Tuesday, and then we're just going to be getting our team to dismantle the evening before. There aren't any requests currently for ongoing activities on the Monday nights that would interfere, but it is something that has happened at times.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, Councillor Fascio makes some great points. Our meetings at the office, I prefer, quite frankly. They're more intimate, we're closer. It just seems to be a more natural and organic conversation that we can have. So from a comfort level, of course, it's better for us as council and staff likely to be at the old village office. But it's not necessarily about us. To Councillor Vedel's point, we must not limit public involvement at all. And from time to time, we have a very passionate village, and from time to time we have topics where a lot of people want to come out and engage, and we ought to not limit that ever. So I'll be against the motion. I think we need to stay where we are. In fact, I think we need to invest in more audio-visual equipment to make it look better, both on Zoom. Right now, I can only see very small figures in the foreground or in the background, and I don't see anybody else. And the audio is never very good in that hall. So I'd like to stay in that hall and invest in better IT for the hall as well. So I'll be against the motion tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbentz. I have a preference for having council meetings here in Memorial Hall. I actually find it more comfortable to have a bigger room and a bigger space that we're spread out. And I find that the more space kind of relaxes the room. And while the intimacy of the council chambers may be appealing to some, it's not to me. And I think there's lots of stuff happening in the village that may attract lots of attention. And I have difficulty with turning people away if the room is full in the council chambers. So I have a strong preference to maintain council meetings here. I think staff have done a great job to set this up in an efficient way that minimizes the labor involved, and I think it's just the appropriate place at this time for our council to meet. Any other comments on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. In favor of the motion? 2 in favor, opposed, and the motion fails 3-2. We have 17B, new item, and I'm going to turn this over to our Community Services Manager to walk us through this and why we added it as being time sensitive.
Thank you, Mayor Tallon. UBCM, the funding stream, reached out to staff to indicate that our previous council resolution required the mention of additional support for any project cost overruns. This one was an administrative oversight when the original motion was brought forward to council and is required in order for the funder to complete their evaluation of our application. This is time sensitive as the council resolution will not be certified until tonight's meeting minutes have been adopted on October 20th, which will then be when the application can be further reviewed and assessed. So the motion will be to indicate the village's support for any cost overruns. So I just wanted to highlight what that could mean. As in any village project, costs would be closely monitored throughout the process. The first priority in the submitted grant application was to remediate the lands which were recently found to contain contamination. The second priority is the formalization of a new park space for community use. If needed, a phased approach could be taken and additional aspects could be completed at later dates as future funding opportunities arise. Any additional requirements to the budget outside of what is allocated would of course come back to council for direction at that time. I believe the motion that you read earlier would best fit to be submitted to the funder, and apologies for the oversight on that in previous meeting.
Thank you, Community Services Manager. A motion to that effect? Want me to reread it, or what the original motion is? If we don't remember from earlier tonight, I'll read it. That council indicated support for cost overruns associated with the application to the Strategic Priorities Fund for up to $2 million for the proposed brownfield redevelopment project. That's the motion. Moved by Councillor Paccio, seconded by Councillor Jackson. Discussion on that motion. Councillor Swinebens.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. I might have missed something. The application is in support of what exactly? Maybe I can get more detail on that. What are we trying to support?
Thank you. Community Services Manager, can you answer that question?
Thank you, Mayor Talon. At the regular council meeting held on August 11th, there was a resolution following a staff report that council support an application to the Strategic Priorities Fund for up to $2 million for the proposed brownfield redevelopment project, and that staff be authorized to apply for and manage the grant funding on behalf of the village. So that was for the site on what is the existing public works yard location, where the investigative work being done for the potential proposed housing identified that there were contaminants on the soil. So when this funding opportunity came up, we thought it would be best to do the next stage of environmental investigations and any potential remediations that fit into the grant fund requirements. So those were the ones that were certified and presented in the application. And it was just the one additional indication of support for cost overruns that the funder is requesting that be included in a resolution from council.
Mayor Talon, can we guess what these cost overruns might be? I'm just trying to figure out what we are asked to approve tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Swinebens. I had the same question if this was a blank check, so to speak, but I was assured it is not. So, and I see the Community Services Manager has an answer waiting for this.
Thank you, Mayor Talon. On top of the normal precautions and measures that are taken by staff, there's also a large contingency placed based on the class estimate that was submitted. So there was, I believe, a 20% contingency already included in the budget that was submitted to them. And anything additional would either need to come back to council for further direction or would be looked at for additional funding sources at that time if anything did arise.
Thank you, Community Services.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor Talon. And if I may ask, so this is really independent of any, this will support our civics lands master plan, irrespective of any senior housing on it or parking. It's to support the remediation of that site should we remove the operations yard and require that site for some other activity, even a passive activity. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question. I see CAO Cook has the answer.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Schweinbens. Because the village is aware of contamination, now it's obligated to explore options to eliminate the contamination. So this is independent of any application. All it would do is make the lands usable in the future if needed. So this is just an application to fund the the remediation and as well as provide additional park space on top of that. Now, your concern regarding the funding is, it's valid, but in the event that we were approaching or saw a cost overrun coming in front of us, we would be coming back to council for direction and or support to support those additional cost overruns, or direct staff to explore other options to find different sources of funding. This is just, the unfortunate part is the original motion that we, basically the original motion that we provided, certified motion to the funder, didn't meet their requirements. So they're requesting that we amend it to include that council is aware in the event that there is a cost overrun, that they're responsible for it.
Okay. So it really has nothing to do with the proposed senior housing at all. We just need to clean up that space. And this ask tonight will help facilitate us potentially getting a grant for that space.
It will, through you, Mayor Tallon, to Councillor Schweinbentz, it will support any further land development of that property, and it will eliminate the contamination. That is the intent.
Right, which we need to remove. Even if the intention is a rain garden in the future, we must remove that contamination.
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks for the clarification, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Schweinbentz. Any further discussion on the motion? I don't see any. I'll call the vote. All in favor? And that carries. And Councillor Schweinbentz, your hand is still up, but I think that was voting in favor of the motion.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank you. Takes us, I think, to item 18, notice of motion. Councillor Faccio. Did you want to read it out? I know we don't have to vote on it, but it'd be helpful to read it out.
Sorry, my apologies, Your Worship. The staff be directed to schedule a 2 to 3 day retreat in November for council strategic session with appropriate staff members to discuss the draft budget, ongoing and future projects, and sources of funding. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fascio. I don't think we have to, it's a notice, and we'll get a chance to discuss it in 2 weeks today. Item 19 on our agenda is question period for items relevant to the agenda. Are there anyone in the audience have any questions or comments tonight?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. John Allen, 398 Hot Springs Road. My question is regarding the proposed 2 or 3 day retreat. One of the requirements of the community charter is that the public's business be conducted in front of the public, with the public having the opportunity to observe the discussion and the decisions being made by council. To me, this 2 or 3 day retreat sounds like council and staff will leave the village of Harrison Hot Springs, go to some resort, hopefully somewhere in BC, and have 3 days of meetings discussing the future of the village, discussing the draft budget for next year, and the future projects and the sources of funding, all of which are of great importance to us, the members of the public. Are you proposing that this retreat be held as in-camera meetings with the public excluded? Are you proposing that the retreat occur in some distant place rather than right here in the village in this very hall? And if so, how does that jive with the requirement to conduct the public's business in public and under public scrutiny? Thank you.
Mayor Tallon, I'm going to call a point of order. This agenda item is only a notice of motion, which will appear on the next regular council meeting when discussion from council and from the residents can take place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vital. It is on our agenda tonight as a notice of motion. Mr. Allen, speculation and conjecture at this point is of little value since council hasn't discussed the motion. So I'm really not in a position to comment further on it at this time. Are there any comments from anyone participating remotely tonight?
If there's anybody on Zoom, please use the raise your hand function. Doesn't appear there's anybody online.
Seeing no further questions, item 20 on our agenda is adjournment. Is there a motion? Moved by Councillor Fascio, seconded by Councillor Jackson, and we are adjourned at 7:55 tonight. Thank you. All in favor of adjourning? Thank you, sorry.
Thanks, everybody. See you in town tomorrow afternoon.
Safe travels, Councillor.
Yeah, thanks. I'll see you tomorrow night.